Welcome, Kerbal, to another episode of KSP Reality. Today, we are going to knock off my last two missions in one that I wanted to do. We're going to go visit an asteroid, so we have a little grabber here, and we're also going to use ion propulsion, and we'll talk somewhat about that. Where are my solar panels? You know, I'm not seeing any, and we will most definitely need lots of very powerful solar panels. We're going to put 4 on just to be extra sure. I'll put them here. Do we have a communication antenna too? Because we know how I love... there we go. We got a good communication antenna. And let's move this to here, so it's going to be less likely to be in the way of the antennas, or the solar panels, excuse me. So I don't know how many episodes this will actually take to do this mission, but we'll give it a go. We're going to just attach ourselves to a nearby asteroid. Closest one that I could find was this one. I believe this is an E-class, which is the largest. But we'll try from here. How? I think we're gonna just head kind of straight towards it. We have a ton of Delta V with the ion engines, so we should be okay. Now this rocket's a little bit finicky. It doesn't really have enough control authority, so I'm not going to do a very aggressive maneuver. We're just going to go ahead and take a very, very slight gravity turn, because I don't think we could control ourselves fully from, say, an angle of attack of maybe 10-15 degrees. Angle of attack is the difference between the direction you're moving and the direction you're facing. So right now our angle of attack is almost 0, which is good. We could probably do a 5 to 10 degree angle of attack, but I'm not going to push much more than that. We'll be fine. Continuing to do well. It's hard to even know what to say with these launches anymore. I've done so many of them. Nice daytime launch. Look at the nice mountains there. We never actually did visit the mountain biomes, but that's okay. We don't need to. While I'm otherwise occupied, if you have any suggestions for either a future playthrough or just a couple of additions to this one, let me know. I will certainly take them. I'm not really planning on doing much more beyond this one. As you probably have already seen, I've started the Surviving Mars playthrough that I had been wanting to do for a little while. So that should cover the continuation of content, and I have a couple of ideas for a future series here, probably using mods to increase some of the realities with stuff like having to worry about life support and things like that I've never actually done before, and so this will be exciting. We could talk about a lot more advanced concepts. But actually, we're doing... Yeah, this is a very, very vertical system. So we're going to burn almost straight horizontal. You see the time to apoapsis is counting down slightly, which is okay. Now it's going back up, but we're at the very, very last little bit of fuel. once we separate and start our next stage, you'll see that it's slowly counting down, which is fine. Yeah, this is a little bit of a mess. I hope this works just fine. I couldn't figure out a way to detach this thing, so I think we're going to be stuck with this, but it won't affect anything. Just know that in a real mission, they would have figured out something. They have a little bit more flexibility, though, with real missions. I could deploy the solar panels, but there's really no need to. This is the one I want. Yeah, there we go. Fuel's going down. We have full power. Well, I may as well use all of the fuel that I can here. One of the things that makes asteroid missions a lot more difficult in Kerbal Space Program, and to some extent in real life, is each one of these is different, and there are no charted courses. They have highly elliptical orbits, making it much more difficult to get to them. And all in all, it's just a lot trickier. Okay, that should do for our holding orbit. Now, how are we going to do this? We want to... I don't know how fast it's moving exactly, but let's say that we're going to aim... say about here. So we want to have our final thrust be right about there. No, that's not right. Huh. That is not... You'd think it's pretty close, but it's really not. Huh. Let's check out the orbit of this asteroid. Oh, I didn't realize it's that elliptical. Aha! So we actually want to go the other direction. We're going to have to accelerate to catch it. The reason being is because it has such an elliptical orbit, we need to kind of go in the same general direction to gain the speed required to catch it. Let's see. Still absolutely hideous. How? Yeah, we're gonna have to burn a lot. I don't know that we're gonna be able to do this without the ion engine. Well, we'll want to burn something like this. How much fuel do we have in this stage? 2,000. So I'm going to actually just tell it to burn up that stage entirely. And we're going to find the optimum... Oh. Why does the moon have to get in the way? I'll tell you what, I'm just going to be lazy. There we go. Delaying when the burn happens, so that way the moon's not in the way. That's what that trick was. Uh-oh. Okay. Don't lock up on me. Okay, that was scary for a second. So good news is we don't actually need all of our fuel. We just need this to happen a little bit earlier. And a little less fuel. If I do get any mods, there are mods that will allow you to adjust these parameters a lot easier. And that would be one of the first mods that I would choose to get a little bit earlier. It is not optimal by any means to do this back and forth. Oh, hey. We're getting there. So this is just like a rendezvous. That will do actually quite nicely. The problem is it's more fuel than we have on the spacecraft. That's okay. We'll just burn it out and then we'll kick into the Xeon stage and do whatever's left. Okay. This will be fine. So let's go ahead and warp to next maneuver. Unfortunately, this is going to take a little while. The reason why it's going to take so long is because we're doing this several orbits in advance to avoid the moon, as previously mentioned. So let's see here. This mission is probably closest in profile to Rosetta. Rosetta went after a fairly similarly elliptical orbited comet. And it had to do a couple of planetary flybys to get it just right. It actually showed up in an asteroid survey. Fun fact. But in the end, they were able to take it. Yeah. This is not bad at all. And once we get close, we'll start doing the same kinds of things that we do with a rendezvous. This is basically a rendezvous mission, but it's a lot longer. Oh boy. I'm just going to put a quick pause in here, and I'll come back to this when we do the thrust. And we are back. And as soon as I get on target, I'm going to start burning. I'm even going to start a little bit early because I pulled to it just at the right time. It's another one of those very, very long burns, although it's nothing compared to what we're going to do with the ion engine. Ion engines in real life, they will fire for years at a time. Basically what an ion engine does is it takes and uses electricity to shoot out individual atoms at very, very high speeds. And the higher the speed, the more efficient the engine is, according to the rules of rocket equations. Well, chemical engines have a limit based off of the temperature of the explosion, and there's a limit to how high the temperature can be. So with ion engines, they're able to do much, much more efficient, as you can tell by the ISP. ISP is the amount of fuel that it will take to... It's the amount of time that one unit, 1 pound or whatever unit of fuel, produce that much thrust. So a typical rocket fuel will be between maybe 300 and 400. 400 for the really advanced ones, maybe even a little bit higher. The ISP for an ion engine is in the thousands. It's much, much more efficient. Of course, I would start out. I'm going to extend the solar panels because I will need them now. Okay. And now we'll fire off our ion engine core. So this is going to take a lot of electricity and a lot of time. Yeah, I see this little thing. This should have been tossed off. Reality, it would actually make a pretty significant difference in the efficiency, but Kerbal. So I'm just going to continue to track this. You see how slow this is. They say that the movement, the acceleration of an ion engine is roughly the same if you take a can of hairspray and you're spraying it. Imagine the force that applies. That's roughly the same force because they're working on the individual atom layer. So they're not that efficient, not that fast. So you have to use them once you are already in space. You can't use them to get off the ground. They will not lift themselves, not even close. But once you get into space, then it's a whole different field. Now notice, we're only 140 meters per second off. Look at how different that orbit is. Hugely different. How are we doing? So, obviously this burn time, actually that's really, really good. This ion engines in Kerbal Space Program are much slower than a regular engine, but they are infinitely faster than... So what I'm going to do is just turn on the time warp. Whoops. That was a mistake. I gotta remember how to do this. So if you have the physics time warp on, then you can still continue to do things, but it's only a little bit quicker. I thought it was alt, maybe it's control? Yeah, whatever. We're doing good so far, so not that big of a deal. So we have communication, we have the grabber, we have some good amount of power. You notice our power is not even going down at all. So we didn't need as many solar panels as we have, but we know how I tend to treat my solar panels. This time we don't have Bob though on, so who knows? Actually, it's Bill that always breaks the solar panels, isn't it? And like I said, they make these much more powerful because you cannot do a constant acceleration in this game for the course of a year. It will not work. In order to do any accelerating, you have to be in the physics time mode. And so you would have to sit here and let your computer run for a year to do it, which is crazy. So because it's a game, they sped things up considerably, although it's still not convenient, as you're finding out as we're going through this. I really wish I could figure out a way to get rid of this. I could do a kind of cheat. They have like these little mothball things that you can fire at your spacecraft that I could wreck something like that, but I won't. I don't know why it's seeming to slow down the rate of acceleration. I don't think it... No, it is slower. I don't know why that is. Tell you what, this thing is bothering me. I'm going to do a mild cheat just to get rid of this. Object thrower. We want just a tiny, tiny cube is fine. We'll fire one off here just to... Oh, we'll make it a little bit bigger. I'm not sure why it's... I can't... Do I have to get out of this? Yeah, I've done it before. You know what? I'm gonna turn this off. Yeah, that's annoying me, but never mind. I'll just leave it. It'll be fine. Okay. So we're starting to approach the actual trajectory. In fact, we're getting further away from it. Okay. Well, that will do. So let's go ahead and... Actually, I'm going to keep on accelerating for just a little bit, even though we're kind of getting off. I'd like to do the intercept now. This is not good. I'm going to set up a correction here, though. Right there. And tell you what, I'm going to put a pause in here. I'll get this figured out and we'll be back. And we are back. So I've chosen to do the inclination adjustment while we're still in Kerbin because we have a somewhat lower speed. It probably doesn't make a huge difference, but we may as well. And we're also adjusting our speed slightly, which is why it's not perfectly there. And you can see we're going to have an intercept here. It's about 25,000 kilometers, which is really good considering the scale of these objects. So let me just... We'll start burning at about now. The timing isn't essential because we're more or less moving on a straight line. The timing's most important when you're curving. But we'll still go ahead and get this done. They only wish they could have ion engines that were this powerful in real life. Now, I chose to put 4 on because I didn't want to sit here and wait for forever any more than you guys wanted me to do this. I put a ton of xenon on. Now, xenon, the reason why they choose that is quite interesting. Xenon is the heaviest inert safe gas. So The best fuel you could use would be radon, actually, but radon can be very hazardous and radioactive, and it just makes things a lot more difficult when you have a significant amount of radioactive material on a spacecraft. People don't like you launching those near them. So the next thing that they suggest, the next one is xenon. So xenon is inert, meaning it doesn't interact with anything. It's inert in the molecular form, which is important to be able to shoot it off one atom at a time. And it's heavy, which means that when you fire it off at a high velocity, it's slower to accelerate, which means that you will be in the zone of acceleration more, so you'll be able to push off a little bit harder. It's kind of hard to explain, but put all of those together, and that is why they chose xenon. In theory, there could be a better gas out there, but xenon it's not super rare. Xenon, it's used in fluorescent light bulbs, or, you know, fluorescent light shows. You go to Vegas, you'll see a lot of xenon. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. And I'm sure someone out there is driving me crazy. Xenon should be the way to pronounce it. But, yeah, anyways, we're doing good. We got some great acceleration. We have tons and tons of power. Power will become a little bit more of an issue when we get way out there, but because the solar panels will decrease the power over time. So we'll have to do a mid-course correction burn. We'll probably do it at this close approach. Doesn't really matter where it is. We just need an anchor point somewhere. No, we'll do it when we're coming down to the final stretch. Probably most of what's left is an inclination. So I'm just going to keep firing at this attitude until the separation stops going down. Not how they would really do it, because they don't measure these statistics in real time, but they're very, very easy to fly with manually, which makes it quite good for a game. And they could actually, in theory, do something like this. I haven't heard of anything, but I'm kind of curious if somebody has taken Kerbal Space Program, its systems for how they do things, and tried them out in a real, like a simulator, a real simulator. Ooh, I like that. Actually, let's just go ahead and burn now. We don't need this. Whoops. That is pretty darn close. Let's just go back out the other way. Even with this super, super light thrust and just barely doing it. Okay. Now we're within a couple 100 kilometers. That's really good. To relative speed 200 meters per second. That's not bad. So we'll have to do a burn once we get close there. So I'll tell you what, we're going to skip the mid-course correction. We're just going to zoom right to here. We'll do the same standard tactic that we do. So we got our target. It's pretty much spot on. at this point in time. Let's go until we're maybe a day or so out. T-minus 14 days. Okay. So let's check this out. Now ideally, the X will match the dot, but it doesn't quite. So it kind of pushes away, so we're gonna just gently push. And the way that we're gonna measure that is through looking at this. That's nearly spot on. Okay. Let's actually start firing to slow it down, the relative speed, because we don't want to come in that quickly. And it's dropping our separation too. That's really good. Okay. Yeah, they're nearly spot on. What is our actual acceleration? Is just over a meter per second. So we'll get into about an hour away. This is not how you would actually do these at all. Actually, there's no need to do an hour away. Yeah, we'll keep going until we're close. Okay, 1 day away. So we got to push it a little bit this way. We see that we're getting closer. Okay. We've successfully managed to get them to line up again. Good. Let's go to about an hour, 2 hours away. Look at how close they are getting. We're actually getting a little bit further away, which is not what we want to do. Okay, now we're decreasing. That's good. It's very slow. Tell you what, I'm just gonna put this straight on. How far away are we as of right now? Still 2 million. So we still want the kind of high approach speed, because otherwise it'll just take forever. Real missions, they do this much, much slower. But part of it is because the real ion engine takes much longer to make contact. Okay. Less than an hour. That's good. Let's go ahead and start burning. Now we can see the direction that it's off. So I always like to do this kind of approach when especially when you have a high speed, of pushing the retrograde and the target retrograde, pushing these two icons, whatever they're called, I forget exactly, together. because you need to slow down anyways. So this will help slow you down. Let's see what our orbit looks like just for the fun of it. Okay, they're still not that lined up, are they? Wow. Okay, let's start. Wow. 1 kilometer separation. So let's go ahead and still have 200 meters per second. Or 100 meters, so about 2 minutes of burn time that we're going to need. Let's just inch up on this. Look at how close they are. Probably. Let's see if we can see it. I'm not super surprised we don't see it. Okay. Actually, it's probably in that direction if we were going to see it, but we don't. Because it's still... This is as far away almost as the moon is, and this is a tiny, tiny rock. So the fact that we can't see it is actually pretty realistic. So let's go ahead and get this a little bit closer. Take this in very careful, measured approaches. Because if we miss, then it's going to be much, much harder to come back from it. Okay. How far away is it now? It's still pretty close. Still pretty far, I mean. It's... If you were an astronaut, you could probably... You might be able to see it. Maybe, but it doesn't even show up on our radar yet. I think this is a big asteroid, which is the only reason you'd have a chance of seeing it. We want to stop at about 5 minutes before we would intercept. Let's go ahead and slow it down. Actually, we're 21. We should be able to see it now. We're 21 kilometers away from it. But I didn't see it. That's okay. 10 minutes. Let's go ahead and we'll do another 3 minutes out or so. Okay. We almost have successful rendezvous, which just means that we're basically in the same orbit and we're close to each other. It's 1/2 of docking. Okay, doing good so far. This is the point where our normal is exactly on. Let's just stop this, actually. We're so close. Look, they're so close that you can't even see the difference in the map. There it is. There we are. And I'm going to go ahead and put us on a more better intercept course. Yes, very technical term there. Haha, no. Okay. Looking good. Let's go ahead and arm this thing. We're going to have to point it in the right direction eventually, but it's minor detail. We have successfully rendezvoused with the asteroid. You can barely see it because it's not having a particularly good angle, but it's there. Now if we go check this out, the orbits should be, yeah, they're virtually identical. Why isn't it not giving me the distance? I guess it's just so close now that it thinks that that's good enough. I don't know what it's trying to do. Whatever. I need that distance. Does Kerbal Engineer maybe give it to me? Yeah, it does. Actually, we're moving at a really good speed and direction. I'm just gonna trust that we will intercept this manually. I'm gonna pull in my solar panels because I don't want them jerked when we capture. And we are just gonna point straight at the asteroid. And let's just go ahead and I think we're on a intercept course. Maybe not. Let's go push. I'm going to push from a little further away because we don't really want to slow down that much. We have so much battery power that probably, yeah, we're doing really well. Okay. We're locked on target. We're pointing straight in the direction of motion, which is straight towards the asteroid. Let's just go ahead and... Wow, this is close. 200 meters. So this is just a tiny, tiny asteroid. But it's still quite large in a lot of ways. And there we go. We have successfully rendezvoused now with this asteroid. Well, we've grabbed it. Now, would a grabber like this work? Probably not. Probably not. So we have full solar panels. We probably, if we were smarter, we wouldn't have put them there. Where's the grabber arm? That's probably not good for... Lock pivot. Control from here. So what I'm trying to do... target center of mass. There we go. So you want to... line these up. Why is that important? Basically what happens is you want the thrust to be through the center of mass. So if you've managed to line up the center of mass, then when you go and accelerate, you shouldn't wobble the asteroid all the way around. Now, okay, we have this thing. How much delta V? Wow. Remember, we had something like 20,000. Now we have 34. So we can't do a lot at all to this, but in theory, we could change its course a little bit. And 34 meters per second would actually be enough to have it no longer intercept, say, Earth or Kerbin. If it was on an intercept course, you could just nudge it just a little tiny bit, and that would be enough. In Kerbal Space Program, if you really want to move an asteroid, especially one this big, you would mine it. I don't have the... Oh yeah, you can see here the resources. That most of the mass is in stuff that you could convert into fuel. So you could mine this thing, convert it to fuel, use that fuel to move it. So, yeah, that would be the easiest thing to do. And there's been a lot of people who've talked about taking these asteroids and using them as refueling stations. You could put one captured in orbit around Earth, and you could use that to refuel deep space spacecraft. A lot of fun things you can do. A lot of fun things you can do with these. So, yeah, just for the fun of it, I'm going to fire the ion engine, and you can see that we are indeed moving the asteroid. Anyways, thank you much for joining me. This will probably be the last episode I'll do in this series. I'll still continue to do one-off videos for cool missions or questions that people have or whatever. I may do another series in Kerbal Space Program in the future. I haven't decided yet. If you do have suggestions for this series, let me know, and I will do the best I can to make it happen. Otherwise, I'll probably do some kind of a modded build in maybe a couple months. Thank you very much for joining me, and thank you guys for sticking out to the very end. It really means a lot to me that people like you are out in the world that care about what I have to say. It's kind of a cool little feeling. Take care, and we'll see you guys next time.